I take refuge in the one bright mind, the Buddha. I take refuge in the teachings of the truth, the Dharma. I take refuge in the embodiment and functioning of truth, the Sangha. Good evening, everyone. We have been doing the Mumonkan, the Gateless Gate, a whole collection of koans, and I think we got up to number 28, something like that. But I think we'll do a little something different for a while. We're going to make a gap here from formal koans. And I'd like to talk about a different aspect of practice. Now, all talks really is try to encourage us to be actively engaged in our own life, or to be actively engaged in our own practice. Or perhaps, if there's a particular challenge or a particular obstacle, it might be some pointers that come to it. When we're doing koan work, the essence of each koan is to try to help open up a particular fixed view, a particular narrow place where we've gotten caught. And koans are, in a way, like the problems in the back of math books. You got all those, got the teaching of the basic principle and the examples, and they give you all the problems. You have to work out all the problems in order to make it real. Well, the koans are just like all those problems. The teaching is the functioning of truth, the wholeness, the completeness, the inseparability of things. And then the koans are different ways of beginning to work on that. So, ideally, when we're doing koan talks on koans, it's because people are actively, vibrantly working on koans. They have koans that they're digging into, and they're really doing their best to understand the koans, because they're all tools, they're all teaching tools. So I think that what I'd like to do right now is not keep talking about koans and talking about the essential parts of koans or the teachings that might come out of koans, but talk more about the active engagement part. To talk about curiosity, talk about questioning, inquiry. Now, in the Theravadan school, there are 7 factors of awakening. And the third of those factors is investigation of states. And I always translate it as curiosity. Because without curiosity, everything becomes very boring. Without curiosity, we become more and more shallow. It is curiosity that provides a juice, that provides an excitement, that provides a calling. And so this curiosity about the nature of mind, the curiosity about the nature of my own suffering, the curiosity about the nature of liberation is, I think, a vital part. This is not a tradition of belief. This is a tradition of investigation. The great Zen master Hakuin, who was a Japanese Zen teacher in the 1700s, he said there were 3 essential aspects of practice. Determination. There's no shortcut to spiritual maturity. You got to keep on practicing. You got to keep on working. Faith, the faith that somehow, even in this being, there is a truth, there is a wisdom, there is a clarity to be found that I'm not separate from. And so the faith that I can know that is a kind of fundamental confidence that's helpful for all spiritual practice. And the third of his 3 is inquiry. Great inquiry, great questioning, great looking into. So with determination we keep going. With faith we feel that there really is an answer. And with inquiry we keep probing, looking, questioning. Every religious tradition has got fundamental questions that require inquiry. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why is there evil in the world? Why do I suffer? What's the meaning of my life? God is good. Why is there so much discord and disaster and suffering? In Zen, we often emphasize the question, who am I? If Buddha nature is perfection, where's that perfection in me? If we all have Buddha nature, where's it kept? How do I touch it? What's real? How do I know anything? These kind of fundamental questions are all probes for ourself to investigate the nature of our own mind, to find liberation in the one and only place it can be found. Now, when we ask why, there are mechanical answers to why. Why does this camera work? And there's a whole series of rational explanations why the camera works, why our watches work, or why these lights work. But those kind of why explanations are always truncated. They're always short. You start with some basic postulates and they go through certain scientific principles. When we ask something like, why did you come here tonight? The surface answer is, I wanted to come, I got in my car, it was Thursday night, all those little short decisions. But in Dharma and in the spiritual traditions, we are, ideally, I am, interested in the ultimate concerns, in the fundamental answers. Why was I born? Why does the universe exist? Does the universe exist? If we're asking why at those kind of levels, we always get down to one of two answers. Because that's the way things are, or I don't know. If we really take these questions of why am I here, and we just go down, why am I here, 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 all the way down to the bottom, we end up with, well, I don't know. There's always more whys. But when there's a statement of something, we can then actually verify it, yes or no. So, the floor is wood. We can verify that for ourselves at different levels. We can look at it, we can feel it, we can think about this. This is old growth cedar or old growth fir. But we can also say, okay, I'm really interested, what is wood actually? And we can begin to probe, what is wood? Where does wood start and my perception end? We can begin to get looking down deeper and deeper when we have a specific thing we're looking at. The fundamental inquiry of the spiritual path is what's true. So, the foundation is whole and complete, lacking nothing, there is no suffering. Our body is not complaining, our hands are just hands, the floor is just the floor, body is just breathing, the earth is just moving, the earth does not talk to us and say, I didn't like it when you got out of bed on the wrong side this morning. I didn't like it when you had canned beans for dinner last night. Our hands aren't busy, saying, don't do this, don't do that. Everything functions just the way it is. It just functions naturally. There is no suffering. But when we add our mind to it, and we add all of our opinions, and we say, ooh, I don't like canned beans, and that's the only thing in the house. I don't like the way things are. I don't like that we call this wood or floor. I don't like what people are wearing. I don't like. The more we start saying, I don't like, it should be different, it should be different, it should be different. When we keep saying to reality, you should be different, guess who loses? 100% of the time. If we were out here in Portland a few days ago and we say there shouldn't be all this smoke in the air. Shouldn't have all this smoke in the air. What's the reality? There's smoke in the air. Forest fire shouldn't cause smoke. What's the reality? But when our mind gets in and says, no, 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 bad, 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 shouldn't happen like that, somebody should have stopped all the cars from driving 50 years ago so that the climate wouldn't be the way I think it is right now, and therefore there'd be more rain, and therefore there wouldn't be a forest fire, and therefore there wouldn't be any smoke, and therefore I'd be happy. Things are smooth, are normal, are just the way things are. Things just act and just react according to karma until our mind gets in there and starts causing lots of friction. So it's very helpful to look at a situation with somebody, with a situation with our body, and say, what's real here? What's the reality of something? And what's the opinion, the judgment, the fixed idea, the belief that I have then added on top of it and of causing suffering? And the sign that we've been doing that is suffering. That's a clear, direct indicator. The more friction there is in their life, the more our opinions, we're doing our best to make our opinions supersede reality. And we lose. We lose. So the Dharma is about ending suffering. And we hear this phrase, whole and complete, lacking nothing. We hear that there is a oneness to things, which you can directly experience that. But when we slice things into two with all of our judgments, fixed beliefs, it should be this way, it should be that way, it should be this way, it should be that way, then we've sliced that oneness, at least in our minds, causing more and more friction, more and more suffering. So the solution, certainly the spiritual solution, the Dharma solution, is not, let's go out and change all the forests so they'll grow according to my idea of how they should grow. But let me change my thinking. Let me examine where I am fixated. Now, so that is the primary inquiry, the primary place. The Dharma is about freeing us from suffering. And the place that we work to free us from suffering is not to make more money, is not to get rid of all the things we don't like, is not to make everybody look like me. It's to change the habits of mind that we have, to see them for what they are. Not even to get rid of them, just to see them for what they are. Now, as you all know, there are certain ways the earth is made, certain ways this life is made. There's certain rules that happen. Right? If something goes up, it comes down. At least on our level of reality, that is a truth. If something is born, it's going to die. That's a truth. And when our mind says, no, 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 shouldn't be, shouldn't, we start fighting with reality. When we say, each thing has a season. The trees come in the spring. They fall in the fall. People are vital and young. And at some point, they become more and more decrepit. And then fade away. That everything that is brought together will not stay together. Entropy is real. So something comes together and it does separate. It does begin to dissipate. We collect a great, we get a collection, I have a collection of Bodhidharmas, Bodhidharma statues in the tea area. And kind of garnered them from all over the place, and they're there It's a nice little collection. I'm very pleased with it whenever I look at it. But it's only a temporary collection. When I die, somebody else will come along and think, oh, these stupid statues, what are they doing here? And get rid of them all, and they'll all disperse again. Our body comes together, it disperses. Entropy is real. We must nourish ourselves. It's a rule of life. We must excrete. It's a rule of life. Everything is impermanent. Things go through cycles. So these rules of life are just the way things are. And our mind begins to fight with the rules of life. And as Byron Katie says, when we argue with reality, we lose, but only 100% of the time. Now, as a society, we make up a lot of we have a lot of social agreements, and some of our social agreements argue with the nature of reality. A social agreement is bodies should look like this. And we have a picture of a body, and people whose bodies look like that, oh, good, good, good. People whose bodies don't look like that, not so good. But nature has us thousands of different ways. So when we start thinking bodies should look like this, that begins to have friction. I should have good health all the time. I demand to have good health. I demand to have health insurance so that I will be able to have good health all the time. It doesn't matter whether we have the most wonderful health insurance in the world or not. We are going to get sick, and we're going to die. And when we think anything else, we're creating this enormous place of worry. So often we'll create something in our minds, shoulds and oughts, and the way things should be, and the way relationships should be, and the way my job should be, and the way my body should be, and the way everybody else should be. And that picture that we have constructed in our own head, when it's out of accord with reality, causes enormous suffering. Enormous suffering. Now, let's take it down another level down. I always, when I was younger, used to think about trees falling in the forest. Nobody's around. Do they exist or not? And on a metaphysical level, one answer, of course, is I don't know. But on a much more practical level, the answer is no. No. Because what makes a tree? What makes sound? There's this vibration that happens, and we have this ear that happens to be attuned to certain vibration, this body, and that apparatus then translate those vibrations into certain, otic or optic nerves, which go into our brain. Our brain then puts them all together in a package and says, tree, sound. All this sound that we're making right now, in reality, is just vibration, but because our brain is constructing, constantly constructing and predicting, we are constructing reality. And when we construct reality that's opposed to reality, when we construct a false reality, we suffer. So the Dharma is about how do we look through the false reality. I mean, it's great to be able to use social convention. Of course, we all have to do that. The social convention, I've got these green flat bill things. They're worth a dollar, unless you have Andy Warhol's 200 $1 bills, which is sold for $43 million. Just a social convention. We think one little sheet of green things is worth so much, and a painting of 200 of them is worth 43 million times that. Just social convention. So our task when we're sitting here, we find ourselves rubbing against reality, and we find friction, is what is real? What is real? What is true? And when we can begin to detect, I'm adding something to this situation that does not need to be there. I have a fixed view that does not need to be there, I actually have the ability to look at it and say, oh, there's a fixed view. I can actually look at it and see, oh, it's just a fixed view. I can look through it. And by looking through and actually seeing the nature of things and seeing it more and more clearly, we begin to abandon those views. All of us are well past our teenage years, but I know that probably everybody when they were teenagers had these great passions about people or things, and they seemed so real. Or one of our daughter came and said, you guys just don't understand about love at all. I feel true love like nobody's ever felt. Teenagers feel like that. But as we mature, as we get older, we actually have a bigger perspective. We actually begin to see things are not so fixated as we thought. Well, that's still true right here, right now. That we have the ability to look at the nature of mind and ask, is it true? Am I interpreting this correctly? Is this the only way to interpret this? And by beginning to poke holes in our assumptions, by poking holes in the surety we have about this is the way the world is, this is the way I am, and beginning to say, gee, maybe there's 3 other ways it could be. Maybe there's actually a bigger truth. Maybe there's something fundamental that I can touch. We begin to let go of our narrow, friction-causing mind and begin to rest in the freedom, the spaciousness, the ease of the present moment. The future does not exist except in our mind. We can't experience it. We can only imagine it. And the past is gone. We can only remember it. So when we begin to discern between what is fantasy about past and future and what is reality, it doesn't mean we have to make all the fantasy wrong, but it means that we can rest in the stability, clarity, and presence of our own life, right here, right now. And respond from that instead of responding reactively all the time based upon should and ought. And that, I think, is the essence of koan work, is that inquiry. But is it? That's true. So we're going to continue this particular investigation when I'm here next time. Oh, actually, because I'll be a little while before I'm here. So I went to Byron Katie's. I think I've mentioned this to some parts of you. A friend of mine told me to listen to A Mind at Home with Itself by Byron Katie and Stephen Mitchell. And I listened to it and I said, oh, that state of mind, I know that state of mind. That's a state of mind that I really want to embody. That is a state of mind that I am hungry for. So I decided I went to her 9-day school down in Ojai, California. And her basic teaching is very simple. It says you pick a particular should or ought and you say, is this true? Is this true? I really absolutely know that it's true. Is that the only way of seeing it? You take whatever answer you get. You say, well, if I think that way, how does that make me begin reacting with people? If I think, everybody should be calm and nice. I think everybody should be calm and nice, everybody should be calm and nice, everybody should be calm and nice. They're not calm and nice. How do I begin reacting? Well, I begin getting agitated. I begin getting critical. I begin feeling something is wrong. Who would I be without that thought? Everybody should be calm and nice. I just accept people as they were. I just be present. Just be engaged. And then she has some other ways of working with it. So she's going to be here on September the 8th. Or she'll be in Portland on September the 8th for a day-long workshop. And if you have the wherewithal and the interest, I encourage you to check it out. And we'll try to continue with some of this kind of work in the next few weeks till I'm back. Chose and I are leaving next week for a couple of weeks. We'll be in Oslo, and I'll be in Denmark. And then we'll come back, and we've got several retreats and things, so it'll be a little bit erratic in the next month. But we'll keep working. Thank you all.